The only real difference between him and Basil is that he was small and had a very large henpecking wife.
So I didn't have any problems with saying what I didn't think was funny. No, I don't believe that. Why does he say that?
It was sharp, fearless, and wickedly funny. A sitcom so outrageously clever it became a cult legend with only 12 episodes. Fawlty Towers didn't just bend the rules, it mocked them and barreled past them. Hidden in the chaos, though, was a moment that crossed a line no one anticipated, one that shook the entertainment world to its foundations. It was one infamous scene that allegedly took Fawlty Towers off the air. So what was hidden inside that notorious scene that made the series quietly vanish from view? Stay with us as we reveal the moment that sent Fawlty Towers tumbling into controversy. The hotel disaster that inspired a legend. It was supposed to be just another stop on a quiet seaside holiday. Nothing fancy, just a modest hotel in Torquay, Devon. The year was 1970, and the Monty Python team had arrived to shoot segments for Flying Circus. What they discovered, however, was anything but ordinary accommodation. According to sources, the Gleneagles Hotel operated under rules that seemed dictated by chaos itself, and for John Cleese, it became the blueprint for one of British television's most unforgettable disasters. Basil Fawlty. Imagine walking through the lobby after a long journey, weary and hoping for rest. Instead, you're confronted by a man whose suspicion and hostility make you question reality itself. That man was Donald Sinclair, the real-life manager of the Gleneagles Hotel. Allegedly, Sinclair possessed a talent for turning paranoia into an art form. Guests were treated like potential intruders. Every gesture, every question, every misplaced item was met with suspicion. One particular incident left the Monty Python team in disbelief. Eric Idle had absent-mindedly left his briefcase in the lobby. Rather than politely inquire about its owner, Sinclair, convinced it was a bomb, allegedly hurled the case over a garden wall. This bizarre act wasn't an isolated lapse in judgment. When Terry Gilliam reportedly held his knife and fork incorrectly, Sinclair rushed over to correct him, treating mere table manners as a matter of law. Complaints from guests were often met with disdain rather than resolution, creating an environment that was simultaneously absurd and unbearably tense. John Cleese observed these events with a combination of bafflement and fascination. Sinclair's theatrics were so extreme that they blurred the line between reality and farce. Allegedly, Cleese kept meticulous notes, capturing the patterns of chaos, the bursts of rage, and the social awkwardness that defined the manager. These observations would later form the backbone of Basil Fawlty, the hilariously dysfunctional hotel owner who would dominate British comedy screens. Basil was exaggerated for effect. His tantrums, passive-aggressive digs, and constant mismanagement dialed up to perfection. But the essence came directly from Sinclair. Suspicion, social ineptitude, and a knack for insulting nearly everyone he met. Fawlty Towers itself ran for only 12 episodes from 1975 to 1979. Yet every meltdown, miscommunication, and absurd escalation behind the reception desk echoed the bizarre reality of that Torquay hotel. Ironically, Sinclair reportedly never realized that he had inspired the character. He passed away in 1981, seemingly unaware that his unconventional approach to hospitality had been immortalized in comedy history. According to sources, the series wasn't a product of mere imagination. It was born from observation, a chance encounter in a hotel that no one would have guessed could shape a cultural phenomenon. Sinclair thought he was running a disciplined establishment, but in reality, he was commanding a Titanic of customer service, and the ripples of his chaos reached far beyond his seaside hotel. For John Cleese, this was only the beginning. Before Fawlty Towers, before Basil, and before the widespread acclaim, he was still on a path that combined sharp observation, personal experience, and an unerring sense of comedic timing. His journey, shaped by real encounters like Sinclair's, would eventually define a generation of British humor. Stay tuned to uncover how a single hotel stay sparked one of the most legendary sitcoms in television history. From mischief to mastery, the rise of John Cleese. Long before the chaos of Monty Python and the disastrous brilliance of Basil Fawlty, John Cleese was a gangly, curious boy navigating the quiet streets of Weston-super-Mare. He was the only child of Reginald Cleese, an insurance salesman who allegedly found the family's original surname, Cheese, too ridiculous for a respectable career in the army. In 1923, Reginald officially changed it to Cleese, a small decision that would later align perfectly with his son's peculiar and enduring comedic charm. At school, Cleese was impossibly tall for his age. By 13, he had already surpassed 6 feet, his awkward frame drawing attention long before his razor-sharp wit did. His education at St. Peter's Preparatory School, paid for by a family inheritance, laid the groundwork for a lifelong fascination with language and human behavior. Cleese excelled in cricket and boxing, yet he was simultaneously observing life's absurdities, cataloging them for future comedic exploration. Even the classroom couldn't contain his curiosity. At Clifton College, he executed a prank that hinted at the dry, intellectual humor he would later master. According to sources, he painted footprints leading away from a statue of Field Marshal Haig, creating the illusion that the figure had wandered off. A juvenile stunt, perhaps, but it displayed an early mastery of visual storytelling and farce. Not all lessons were lighthearted. When he was 17, Cleese was reportedly passed over for a house prefect position despite his academic record, leaving him with a keen sense of injustice. That experience, he would later claim, shaped the satirical lens through which he scrutinized authority and social structures. The path to Cambridge was delayed due to the end of national service, forcing Cleese to return to his former prep school as a teacher of Latin, science, English, and history. Ironically, the Latin lessons he taught would later appear in Life of Brian, where his character famously corrects the grammar of anti-Roman graffiti, a testament to how every detour in his life became part of his creative arsenal. Eventually, he secured a place at Downing College, Cambridge, to study law. Yet fate had other plans. At a student fair, the Footlights Theater Club asked if he could sing or dance. "No," Cleese replied bluntly, claiming that if anything could be worse than his dancing, it was his singing. "So what do you do?" they asked. "I make people laugh." That bold answer allegedly opened the door to a legendary career in comedy. At Footlights, Cleese met future collaborators Tim Brooke-Taylor, Bill Oddie, and the one who would change everything, Graham Chapman. Together, they forged a strange, anarchic, and cerebral brand of humor that would forever reshape British television. Even after graduating with a law degree in 1963, Cleese's father continued sending newspaper ads for retail management jobs, allegedly doubting that comedy could provide a reliable career. By then, the academically gifted prankster had transformed into a comedic powerhouse, setting the stage for a legacy that would eventually culminate in Fawlty Towers. But how did these early misadventures, pranks, and observations translate into the explosive genius that audiences would soon adore? The story continues. Fawlty Towers. Chaos perfected. If you've ever wondered how a hotel run by a man teetering on the edge of madness became one of the most celebrated sitcoms in British television history, it wasn't the result of John Cleese's solo brilliance alone. According to sources, it began with a marriage, one not built to last, but one that ignited extraordinary creative magic. Cleese and his then-wife, Connie Booth, allegedly drew inspiration from a real-life experience so hilariously disastrous that it lingered in their memories for years, eventually morphing into something unforgettable: Fawlty Towers. The story begins at the Gleneagles Hotel in Torquay, where Cleese allegedly encountered a manager so absurdly rude and incompetent that it bordered on real-life satire. While most guests might have left disgruntled or filed complaints, Cleese and Booth saw an opportunity for comedy gold. The image of a short-fused innkeeper trapped in endless chaos refused to fade, and the seeds for the series were planted. But the duo did more than base a show on a cranky hotelier. They meticulously sharpened every moment with wit, farce, and characters so outrageously real that viewers couldn't help but relate to their absurdity. According to sources, Booth's observations of staff behavior and Cleese's acute sense of social awkwardness directly informed the dynamics of the main cast. When Fawlty Towers premiered on the BBC in 1975, critics were bewildered. One labeled it a disaster, allegedly confused by the rapid-fire humor and surreal scenarios. Yet audiences immediately embraced the manic energy of Basil Fawlty, Cleese's towering embodiment of nerves and fury, paired with Sybil's merciless sharp tongue, Polly's grounded intelligence, and the eternally hapless Manuel, whose confusion escalated every misstep into comedic chaos. The show's brilliance wasn't confined to slapstick. Each episode was a masterclass in timing and escalating farce. Every scene operated like a powder keg, fueled by pride, miscommunication, and barely restrained hysteria. According to sources, Cleese and Booth spent hours perfecting line delivery and physical comedy to ensure the mayhem felt both organic and meticulously orchestrated. Ironically, despite its growing popularity, the BBC nearly canceled the show after only 6 episodes. Reruns and word-of-mouth enthusiasm forced executives to reconsider. By 1979, 4 years after the initial run, a second and final series aired, cementing the show's legendary status. Only 12 episodes were ever produced, yet each one exemplified comic precision, securing the show's place in television history. Behind the scenes, however, life was less orderly. By the second series, Cleese and Booth were divorced, but continued to work together professionally, completing the project with artistic determination. Their collaboration proved that creative synergy could survive personal strife. Decades later, Fawlty Towers continues to resonate. Quotations from the series are endlessly recycled, studied, and referenced by new generations. Viewers still delight in Basil's mounting fury, Manuel's innocent blunders, and the tightrope of chaos Cleese and Booth orchestrated. According to sources, the show's enduring impact lies not only in its humor, but in the meticulous craftsmanship behind its construction, a testament to the extraordinary ability of two creators to turn disaster into timeless comedy. Fawlty Towers, the Germans and the edge of comedy. Even at the peak of its acclaim, Fawlty Towers was not immune to controversy. According to sources, one episode, The Germans, allegedly pushed the boundaries between comedy and offense further than any other, sparking debates that continued decades later. The episode begins with Basil Fawlty, played with precise absurdity by John Cleese, recovering from a head injury that leaves him disoriented and more disaster-prone than usual. What follows is a relentless cascade of errors, awkward interactions, and one of the most infamous sequences in British television history. A group of German tourists checks into the hotel, and Basil, barely coherent and desperate to avoid offense, instructs his staff, "Don't mention the war." True to his nature, however, he immediately does the opposite, spiraling into a surreal, fast-talking tirade filled with Second World War references and Nazi comparisons. Allegedly, he even performs a full goose-step march through the lobby while imitating Adolf Hitler, amplifying the absurdity and discomfort. The response was divided. Many British viewers understood the satire, recognizing that the jokes targeted Basil's arrogance, ignorance, and social ineptitude, rather than the guests themselves. Yet others, including some BBC executives, found the content distasteful and offensive. Letters poured in, with critics alleging the episode trivialized a painful history. According to sources, network officials debated removing the episode entirely before ultimately allowing it to air. In Germany, reactions were equally complex. Some viewers appreciated the satire, seeing it as a critique of British obsession with the war, rather than an attack on Germans. Others, especially those with direct family connections to wartime experiences, found the slapstick depictions of Hitler and awkward war references insensitive. With the advent of streaming, the Germans faced renewed scrutiny. Several platforms allegedly removed the episode, while others edited specific scenes or lines deemed inappropriate by modern standards. Fans reacted fiercely, arguing that such edits misunderstood the show's intent. Cleese himself defended the episode, asserting that Basil's stupidity was always the target, and that mocking ignorance was essential to the show's comedic genius. Even now, decades later, The Germans serves as a case study in how comedy can provoke, challenge, and endure, reminding audiences that humor often walks a razor's edge. The episode's legacy is a testament to Fawlty Towers' fearless approach to satire, timing, and character-driven chaos. Behind the chaos, the cast that made Fawlty Towers legendary. Fawlty Towers wasn't just a masterclass in writing and timing. It was a testament to the dedication, resilience, and unspoken sacrifices of its cast. According to sources, much of the physical comedy that thrilled audiences came at a very real cost. Andrew Sachs, who portrayed the endearingly hapless Manuel, faced some of the most demanding stunts in British sitcom history. In one notorious scene, a real frying pan was used for the first take, leaving Sachs with a severe bruise. The production quickly switched to a rubber pan for subsequent takes, but by then, the physical and symbolic toll had already been taken. Sachs also endured minor burns during a kitchen fire scene gone awry. Yet he returned to set after set with unwavering professionalism. His commitment transformed Manuel into a character both beloved and perpetually tested by comedic violence, making him a symbol of the physical stakes of farce. Prunella Scales, who played the imperious Sybil Fawlty, approached her role with equal rigor, albeit in a different dimension. Scales' meticulous attention to timing and expression allowed her to counterbalance Cleese's explosive Basil with precise comedic restraint. Allegedly, she drew inspiration from real-life women she observed in British society, who wielded authority with a combination of charm and intimidation. Her performance ensured that the tension in each scene never tipped into pure chaos. Instead, it anchored the farce with a sense of realism, giving the audience someone to believe in amid the absurdity. Behind the scenes, the pressures of shooting the second series were magnified by Cleese and Booth's personal separation. Despite their divorce, the two maintained a professional partnership, proving that artistic collaboration could thrive even in the wake of private heartbreak. Sources indicate that this ability to compartmentalize personal issues was essential to sustaining the high-intensity performances required for each 12-episode run. Every episode demanded precise coordination. Timing, physical comedy, and overlapping dialogue were executed with military precision. When executed correctly, the results were explosive, but missteps could lead to literal injuries, as evidenced by Sachs's experiences. Brian Hall, who played Terry the chef, contributed to the chaotic energy with his deft improvisations, creating a sense of unpredictability that made each kitchen scene a miniature battlefield of humor. Meanwhile, Renee Roberts and Jilly Flower, portraying the seemingly fragile Miss Gatsby and Miss Tibbs, demonstrated that even minor characters could carry comedic weight and narrative importance, often providing quiet moments of irony or sudden absurdity that heightened the overall tension. According to sources, the cast's cohesion was forged through both camaraderie and shared adversity. Long days of filming, sometimes stretching into late nights, were filled with pratfalls, verbal sparring, and the constant threat of physical mishap. Yet despite the bruises, burns, and personal conflicts, the ensemble created a chemistry that remains unparalleled. Their commitment to each other and to the comedy was palpable, transforming a hotel set into a crucible of laughter and performance. This dedication did more than entertain. It created a legacy. Every shouted insult, every pratfall, and every awkward pause became part of the DNA of Fawlty Towers. Generations of viewers, new and old, continued to discover the brilliance that arose from meticulous planning, raw talent, and the sheer willingness of a cast to push the boundaries of comfort for the sake of comedy. While the characters may inhabit a fictional hotel, the sacrifices and triumphs behind the scenes are very real, reminding audiences that great humor often comes from the convergence of chaos, commitment, and courage. And as the world waits for the possibility of a Fawlty Towers revival, the question remains: can the next generation capture the same electrifying energy and fearless dedication that made the original cast legendary? The legacy is set, but the challenge is monumental. The enduring legacy of Fawlty Towers. Even decades after its final episode aired, the influence of Fawlty Towers continues to ripple through British comedy and global television culture. According to sources, the series is frequently cited by contemporary comedians, writers, and scholars as a masterclass in timing, character-driven humor, and farce. Its blend of sharp dialogue, escalating chaos, and human folly set a standard that few sitcoms have matched since. Every episode, though brief, was crafted with meticulous care, with writers John Cleese and Connie Booth allegedly spending weeks refining scripts, rehearsing physical gags, and ensuring that each scene's tension would explode at precisely the right moment. Observers note that the intensity of rehearsal and attention to detail was unprecedented for a sitcom of the 1970s, and this discipline is widely credited with the show's lasting impact. John Cleese, whose towering presence as Basil Fawlty became synonymous with comedic excellence, continued to shape the entertainment landscape long after the show ended. Following Fawlty Towers, he co-wrote and starred in A Fish Called Wanda in 1988, a film that garnered critical acclaim and multiple award nominations, including BAFTA recognition. Cleese also lent his distinctive voice to animated projects, including Shrek 2, voicing King Harold. According to reports, Cleese remained deeply engaged with the creative process well into his later years, contributing not only as an actor, but as a mentor and writer for younger comedians exploring farce and satire. Even in his 80s, he remains outspoken, challenging modern comedy, cancel culture, and social trends that clash with his vision of satire. Allegedly, his 2023 announcement of a Fawlty Towers reboot, co-written with his daughter, Camilla Cleese, promises to reintroduce Basil's chaotic genius to a new generation. Critics and fans remain divided over whether the humor will translate to today's audiences, and debates about political correctness, nostalgia, and comedic intent continue to swirl around the project. Connie Booth, in contrast, opted for a quieter life after the series. The actress and co-writer of Fawlty Towers transitioned to psychotherapy, reportedly finding fulfillment and stability away from the public eye. Booth's career shift underscores the toll of producing such an intense and boundary-pushing series, illustrating that even the most talented performers sometimes seek peace after creative intensity. Her decision allowed her to focus on personal growth, study, and helping others, which, according to some sources, provided her with a sense of balance that the entertainment industry could not. Booth's influence on the show, however, remains undeniable. Her contributions to writing and character development shaped Fawlty Towers' nuanced blend of chaos and intelligence. Prunella Scales, who brought Sybil Fawlty to life with razor-sharp wit, continued to grace both film and television screens. She appeared in acclaimed projects such as Howard's End in 1992 and numerous BBC dramas, consistently praised for her ability to convey strength and humor simultaneously. In recent years, Scales has faced vascular dementia, with her husband, actor Timothy West, speaking publicly about both the challenges and her enduring humor and spirit. Despite health difficulties, Scales' legacy as Sybil endures, symbolizing the resilience and craft of actors who transform potentially ordinary roles into icons of performance. Andrew Sachs, whose Manuel became emblematic of comedic innocence and physical comedy, also sustained a prolific career in television after Fawlty Towers, including appearances in Coronation Street, Doctor Who, and various theatrical productions. Sachs's dedication to performance, despite the physical demands of slapstick, left an enduring mark on British comedy. Allegedly, he often improvised lines on set, further enriching the character and making Manuel a figure whose charm and naivety captured audiences worldwide. Sachs passed away in 2016 following a battle with dementia, but his work continues to inspire actors and comedians who admire his commitment to character and timing. Other cast members left their own indelible marks. Ballard Berkeley, who portrayed the eccentric Major Gowan, passed in 1988, yet his character remains emblematic of a certain outdated but enduring humor, reflecting post-war British attitudes through a lens of absurdity. Brian Hall, the volatile chef Terry, continued acting until 1997, maintaining the same dedication to character work that defined his Fawlty Towers performances. Gilly Flower and Renee Roberts, the beloved Miss Tibbs and Miss Gatsby, performed well into later life, their subtle performances adding warmth and texture to the hotel's chaotic world before their deaths in 2009 and 2010, respectively. Their portrayals underscored the importance of supporting roles in creating a fully realized comedic universe. The 2024 reboot, according to reports, has ignited debate over whether a show so steeped in 1970s sensibilities can survive in today's hypersensitive climate. Yet regardless of how the revival fares, the original 12 episodes of Fawlty Towers remain untouchable. Its brilliance lies not only in the writing and performances, but in the courage, dedication, and often unseen sacrifices of a cast and crew who gave everything to create something timeless. The laughter, chaos, and genius of the series endure, reminding the world that some masterpieces, no matter how brief, leave a legacy that refuses to fade. Fawlty Towers is more than just a sitcom. It is a study in human folly, a lesson in comedic precision, and an enduring testament to the power of imagination, timing, and relentless commitment to craft. The show's influence has stretched into international television, inspiring adaptations, academic studies, and countless tributes. Allegedly, modern writers often reference Fawlty Towers when discussing the anatomy of farce, pointing to its meticulous timing and character-driven humor as a benchmark. Its characters, scripts, and performances are preserved not just as entertainment, but as historical artifacts of comedy's evolution. From reruns to streaming platforms, Fawlty Towers continues to captivate audiences, proving that while everything else in television may change, true genius remains timeless. Could Fawlty Towers' signature mix of chaos, wit, and razor-sharp humor still land in today's hyper-aware world? Share your thoughts below, and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.